Welcome, thank you for being here. Before your exciting Saturday night here at MAGFest. Again, Friday night, 8:30, nothing better than talking about esports and education. Yes, so thank you very much for being here. This is going to be a pretty informal conversation. As we see, our PowerPoints are very high tech right now, so just please pay attention as we go along. No, it's, as I said, very informal. We'll talk a little bit up here. I don't want to say we're an expert panel by any means. If you have questions, we'll have plenty of time for you to ask those questions as we move forward. We'll give a brief introduction. I've got a couple of kind of topics to talk about along the lines of esports and education and how the two fit together. And then after a little bit of us talking, we'll open the floor up and let you all ask the questions, and we'll see how the conversation carries on from there. So to start, my name is Joey Bariziak. I'm a professor, associate professor of sport management and esports at Shenandoah University. I'm also the director of the new esports program that we have there on the competitive side, as well as the person that started the esports major that will be launched fall of 2019 as one of the first in the country to offer an esports degree, and a couple of different tracks that we'll talk about as we kind of go through this. And I also work on a radio show called Press Start Radio, where I am just one of the small co-hosts on the show under the main host next to me. And I've been doing that for about 3 years now. We also run a podcast called The Checkpoint, so make sure to check us out. I'm sure you'll hear more about that as we move along as well. This is my fourth or fifth year here at MAGFest, and I'm seeing a lot of friendly faces here, so thank you all for coming back and attending, and I'm sure we'll continue this conversation tonight and through the rest of the weekend. Okay? So we'll go down the line.
Okay. And don't let him fool you, Joey is actually an expert, so feel free to grill him with any questions you think of as far as these
Thanks.
My name is Will Lawrence. I am the community director at Shenandoah University as well. I know what you're saying. What does that mean? That means I kind of help the university get in contact with companies inside of the industry. So I work alongside of Ubisoft, Bethesda, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, all of the above, to kind of find out what kind of relationships or partnerships are there, because there are a lot of companies that want to be involved with esports, especially a university that's one of the first in the country to offer what we're offering. I also am the co-host of the Press Start radio show and the Checkpoint. I've been in the industry for many years, 15 years, somewhere there. I also am part owner in a brewery. I just figured I'd put that out there. And I'm a financial advisor as well, so I wear many hats. But happy to be here, and looking forward to this.
And don't let Will fool you. He is actually also an expert. He is the host. I've been on the Press Start radio show and the Checkpoint podcast. Oh, my name's Brett Wigley, by the way. But I've been on the radio show and the podcast with Will for about 2 years. I got my master's at Shenandoah University, which is kind of where I met up with this motley crew here. And I will be starting at Shenandoah University as the League of Legends coach for the esports team in the coming semester. And this is my second MAGFest, and it's awesome to be back talking about esports again.
All right, my name's Joel Oliver, and I'm a co-host on the Press Start radio show, as well as the Overwatch manager / coach at the Shenandoah University as well. They already covered the rest of it. So.
Hi, my name is Joseph Rudy. I am the only non-Shendo or Press Start person on the panel here. Yes. And I am the director and head coach of the esports program at Coker College in South Carolina. I was also the president of the esports club at Penn State University. At Coker, we are starting up thinking of trying to bring esports into our education. We already have something called interdisciplinary studies, which allows you to combine a few majors. For example, we have a person who's trying to go into sports commentating, so he mixes like communication and broadcasting with sports management, and is kind of able to get a tailor-made degree for himself. While at Penn State, we also worked with the College of Communication to kind of help them with their journalists and their commentators to try to get a head start in the esports scene back when it was still fresh and new, which still kind of is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's us. That's all we have for the day, so thank you very much. No, so this panel is about esports and education, how the two kind of fit together, because in the world we live in now, esports, yeah, very popular. It's continually growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's set to become, like, what we say, $1.5 billion industry by 2020 is the last one we just looked at. And so, we look at, this is a very, a very viable industry that needs people to be able to work in that industry. And that's what I wanted to bring this panel up for, is we want to talk about how education can help students get into that esports industry. And yeah, I'm going to talk a lot about Shenandoah. Rudy down in the end is going to talk a lot about Coker College, but a lot of the concepts that we talk about are true across the country. A lot of schools are looking into how they can fit esports into their educational systems to benefit students. That's what education is for. We're trying to benefit students, and there's an end game to that. That's to help them get a job to work in the industry. So at Shenandoah, not only are we doing stuff in esports, we're doing stuff in virtual reality as well, starting a new virtual reality major in VR design, as well as our skill lab, our Shenandoah Center for Immersive Learning, doing a lot of 360 and VR projects. So, technology is here. You can't fight it. And education, notoriously sometimes, fights new things, innovative programs that come through, because they want to stick to the old, tried and true, the old school stuff. And there's a place for the new stuff as well. There's a place for everything in education. So I wanted to put this panel together so we could talk about where esports fits into education and where education fits into esports, how the two can work together and how they fit together. And so I'll throw some topics out there, and I'll talk a little bit and let my esteemed colleagues up here, most of them esteemed colleagues, talk a little bit as well about their experience and what they think about these topics. And then again, we'll kind of open up for questions. So what we'll start with is, what is the value of education to the esports industry? And what that means is, how can colleges, how can schools prepare students to enter the esports industry? And we don't have to go in line by any means, so feel free to just kind of, not step up, sit up and say something.
So, I'm only part-time Overwatch coach. My primary job is as a headhunter or a recruiter, and so what I'm doing all day, every day is placing people in jobs. And for those of you who are young or just trying to get into the industry, whatever industry that may be, like, your resume is the very first step, right? And I get all the time, I have a company that says, we want this position, they must have a bachelor's degree. And they don't care what it is frequently, but frequently it needs to be in whatever area it is that they're studying or that they're pursuing. And I can present to them the most qualified candidate who has 30 years of experience, who, those of you who have experience know that that is much more valuable than your education was, but they will not consider them without that degree. And so, like, my answer right here, the very short part is, like, this gets you in the door. If you want to work in esports, also seeing as how there is no other degree out there at the moment, or very few others out there at the moment, this is going to put you ahead of 95% of other applicants, like, just on a piece of paper, before they meet you, before they talk to you, before they look at your experience. Hey, here is something that makes this person stand out in this field.
Yeah, I'm going to echo real quick what Joel said. He said a number in there that's pretty high, 95%. And that's a number that actually I was quoted on for people at Blizzard that said, an esports degree is extremely strong. This is something that if a student or somebody that wants a job has an esports degree, that will instantly put them ahead of 95% of all other applicants. Because a lot of people think just because I play esports or play video games, I can work in the industry. It's not that easy. Okay, so a degree actually focused in that industry will put students ahead of this. And so that's, to me, what the impetus was of this degree. And we are starting to see in other places. Ohio State has announced some things, Becker College has announced some things. UC Irvine has an online certificate. There are other schools that are starting to have this and explore this option. And so it's nice to be on the forefront of this to kind of see what's going to happen. Because I don't think we know what's going to happen with this. I think it's going to be extremely popular, and we're going to place a lot of people in prominent positions in the industry. And so I think it certainly has an important place in education, and I'm glad that we're starting to see it happen right now.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think just having an education in the industry is huge. If you think of, what did you say earlier, it was a $1.5 billion industry by 2020.
Billion.
Yeah, with the B.
Billion.
With the B.
So in 2015, the esports industry is worth about $325 million. So that's a 40% growth over those years. So by 2020, $1.5 billion. So you don't get to be a $1.5 billion company without having jobs. And right now, there isn't a whole lot of places out there offering a degree. So just for that reason alone, you're already ahead of the game, literally, pun intended.
Okay.
Are we jumping questions now, or like?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
So what exactly is an esports degree? Like, what are some of the? Is it more of a business thing, or is it?
I'm glad you asked. It's almost like I planned that question. I didn't. I should have planned a question like that, but I didn't.
And then also, like, what are some examples of careers in esports?
Okay. I'll handle what the degree looks like because I wrote it and it's a lot of fun to write. And it did finally get approved by UCC, our University Curriculum Committee, so it is officially going to happen. Finally, it's not pending anymore. So the degree is, if you think about it, and I put this in terms of like sport management, because that's where I've gotten that's where I studied when I was in college, and that's what I'm a professor of. It's very similar in that, but obviously a lot of nuances that are different. So the eSport degree is going to be consisting of classes on the business side and actually on the exercise science side of things is also what we have here. And students can specialize, they can just get an eSports degree, a major in eSports, a Bachelor of Science in eSports, or they can get a focus or a track in management. They can get a track in the communication and media side of things, or also in the coaching side of things. So a lot of different options for students to come here and get this, because certainly the business side is very important. So we'll be teaching classes, I'll be teaching classes in things like event management, where students will be actually running esports events on campus. So they're getting very, very practical, real world experience, which is something that industry experts have said over and over. You've got to let them have real world experience. Somebody said, I don't know if it was Brett or somebody else said, it doesn't really matter what you're taught in school, it matters what you do. That's the more important thing, is the experiential learning that you're getting. And so I kept that in mind a lot when I was designing these classes and this degree, was that I want students to actually run these events and get them on their resume. So when they go for an interview, they can say, yeah, I ran an event, here's how it went, here's what we should have done, here's what could have made it better, and here's what we did the next time to make it better. So they were running all types of events, from individual tournaments to team tournaments, ones that are just on campus, ones that we can bring in outside people, high schoolers or local people in the community. So I want them getting a lot of different looks at different kinds of events they can run. So that's just one of the classes. And then things like governance. I mean, talk about a sticky issue right now in esports is how in the world esports are governed. Because with all the intellectual property, things that are going on and things. So in third-party governing bodies trying to run events, the NCAA possibly getting involved, there's a lot of issues going on right now with governance that students need to be aware of, because that's something that makes esports completely different from traditional sports. Nobody owns basketball, but somebody owns League of Legends. Okay, so that makes it very different trying to run events and do things. So governance is a big one as well. And then of course consumerism, which is the business side. Talking about marketing, talking about revenue generation, promotion, sponsorships, that kind of thing will be in that kind of course. So that's kind of the core, and then they can focus in these other areas. Like I said, if they want to go into the coaching side, they'll get a coaching certificate from the university. And they'll also be working very practically with our esports competitive team, our varsity level team. If they want to go into coaching, they'll be helping to coach our varsity level team. If they want to go into the media communication side, they'll be working with Twitch and broadcasting our events through our Twitch channel. If they want to go into the business side, they'll be helping Will and I go out into the community and get partners for our esports team. So very, very practical things these students will be doing, so they can talk about those when they want to go get a job. Because at some point, they're going to have to get a job, whether it's in esports or not. And so I'm trying to teach them skills that could also transfer to other areas, because they might not work in esports. I hope they do, but if they don't, I want them to have a solid degree and a solid background so they can get a job in something else if it's not esports.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind as well is that there are a lot of careers out there that also overlap with more traditional things. There's, like in esports, you need event managers, you need photographers, you need, if there's a tournament, you need a tournament director. There's not a lot of unique jobs in there. Maybe like an esports director, they need to know esports a lot. One of the most unique jobs that I know of is I know someone at Blizzard who works as an in-game camera operator for the Overwatch League. That's something where I guess the only thing you can think about is at sports someone needs to be a camera operator,
right.
But it's instead using just a mouse and keyboard. So there's a lot of unique jobs out there, but there's a lot of overlap between the traditional world and the esports world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got it.
So talking long-term differentiation and also scaffolding. I teach middle school. You and I both know that just because we play video games, you're not esports. What sort of things are we looking for and or wanting to encourage students who express an interest early on to get them kind of saying, okay, this is what you need to be prepared, or maybe this isn't for you?
Yeah, and that's a good question. My gosh, I taught high school for a couple of years. I'm trying to think back to those days, and I was trying to forget those days a lot of times.
You mentioned high schoolers. So
Right.
So like the first thing, like an esports degree is not playing video games, right? So like that would be the first thing to say. Like if you want a career in esports, I mean, there's the difference between an esports athlete, right? And this is not what this is, or someone who is a coach or a community director or working at Blizzard or an event manager putting on these kind of conferences or whatever the case may be. So like I think there is sort of a misunderstanding, particularly among older people, I would imagine, that esports degree would be just going to college to play video games. As fun as that would be, that's not what it is.
Yeah,
So-
I think for me, it's if you think about the NBA, the Houston Rockets are just blowing up right now. But you think about the 5, 7, maybe 10 people who play on that roster consistently, and there are these organizations that are just massive in size and in the money they bring in, the money they take to run. It's an incredible amount of people that take to run that organization. And if we truly believe, and I think a lot of us do, that esports is headed in that direction, it's going to take a staff of a comparable size to make this thing run, and the additional staff that takes to run an event with so many interlocking parts is going to add to that. So there's a whole lot that can be done in that sense as well.
I just wanted to mention, so from middle school, I mean, you imagine kids start playing games early on. So to go from middle school to teach them about teamwork, communication, those kinds of things, and they go to high school, it's just like you're playing the JV team or the varsity team, and then of course they get to a collegiate team. Then from at that point they learn about, well, what makes the industry tick, what jobs are available. So if they have interest early on, those are the kinds of skills that just like you would if you're playing on a basketball team. I mean, you got to learn to work together, right? The coach should be helping you learn how to do these fundamental things, so forth and so on.
Yeah, I think those are good points. To go back to the middle school idea, I think we're exactly right that the students need to know this is not about playing video games. This is how to work in the industry. Just like somebody interested in football in middle school. If you want to work in football the rest of your life, you're probably not going to be playing football the rest of your life, but you can work in the industry. So it's about understanding how it operates as a business. And that's a tough concept for middle schoolers a lot of times. So it's just having them understand that this is more than just playing the game. This is kind of the backbone of working behind the scenes. And so, if they understand that and they're still interested in it after trying to learn the business side, then I think that's something they should definitely keep going with. And it's fueling their passion. A lot of kids are passionate about video games, for the good or the bad. And it's teaching them to fuel that passion in the right way. All things in moderation. I'm not saying that you're going to be playing Fortnite for 15 hours a day. Some of them probably do. But understanding how Epic works as a developer and how they run events, how they put on tournaments, that kind of thing, that's way more important for working in the industry, and that's what kids need to try to understand from an age like middle school. And however you can vocalize that and get that across, good job, because that's a tough message to get across middle school sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What makes the esports future? What classes would be included in that future?
Sorry, what classes are included?
Yeah.
So right now, gosh, if I can read this off the top of my head. So the eSport core major itself is it's Introduction to Esports, Contemporary Issues in Esports. And then it's, as I said, kind of the management side of things is eSport Consumerism, eSport Event Management, and eSport Governance. And then more on the science side of things, I'm going to get this part wrong because I had help developing this side. Management's totally my side of things. The science side is not near my part. Ergogenic aids is a big one over there. Performance is one, looking at nutrition and health benefits, as well as injury rehabilitation. Those are the three. I got them. And then there's a capstone as well that all students will have to take, and that's a very experiential learning-based class where students will work with our varsity esports team, or they can go out and get an internship in the industry as well, and that will also count for some credit in there. And then beyond those, we have a core set of classes that students can take that are already offered at the university. And so they can focus in areas such as business. They can get a minor in business from the university to help augment those management classes side of things. They can get a minor in public relations to kind of work in the media and communication side of things. And then there are some design classes that we're coming up with. We've got some VR classes we're coming up with and putting out there, where I would highly encourage students to do that, because 2 or 3 years down the road, I can envision an esports design track and development track where they're learning how to actually code and write these games. And so I see that happening eventually. We're just not there yet, but we're starting to get there, especially the introduction to this new VR major we have. So all these things are working together. So esports themselves, it's specifically, it's 8 classes specifically for esports, and everything else will kind of go to what we already have at the university for now. Now this curriculum always changes in higher education. And so we're launching this, getting off the ground. We're making one full faculty eSport hire right now, and we're going to see how the program goes. I think we'll need another for the fall of 2020, at least one more, and then we'll grow from there so we can get more and more eSports specific classes down the road. Those are the ones right now we've got for our major. Okay. Yes?
So I come from a high school that actually just started before winter break actually building an eSports team, and they want to expand upon, really expand, they have big visions for it. We were both actually given leadership position in the club, and we're trying to look for sponsorships and stuff setting stuff up and trying to connect with companies in terms of how it has the education side. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is what specifically do we need to not just put a bunch of kids in a room and say play, but actually to set it up and get more connecting with other people and actually getting tournaments not just within the school but with other schools and possibly even colleges and beyond that.
I'll take this real quick and I'll let these guys follow as well. But I see one of my students right behind you kind of nodding. I'm going to kind of give an ode to him. Discord. Get on Discord and get with other people in the community. Okay, the more you can connect with people through Discord, the better off you're going to be. Make sure that you're constantly on there talking to other people in the community, whether it's schools or other organizations, to kind of work with them and see what they're doing. The esports industry has been fantastic so far because nobody knows what the best thing to do is right now. It's the Wild West in esports, but everybody wants to work together to make sure that it happens because everybody's passionate about making it happen. It sounds like you're passionate as well about making it happen. And so, you need to fuel that passion and get with other people that have that same passion and see what they're doing and work together with it. The bigger the group, the more power, there's power in numbers. So that really gives you a backbone to talk to companies. It's not only our school, it's this school and that school and that school and that school that are doing this. We want to make this legitimate, we want to get this big, let's run some events, you want to sponsor us and do this. So I think just getting on Discord and connecting with other schools is a really big way to do that. Okay?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to do as well is get your name out there any way you can. There's a bunch of high school leagues out there, such as HSL, HSEL as well. I think it's the High School Esports League, and I forget what the other one's called.
High School Star League.
High School Star League, that's it, correct. So there's multiple just high school leagues that you can compete in. And then one way for advertisers, one thing that's great for high schools is look for your local businesses. They're always looking to help out at the schools nearby. They'd be more than happy to help out a team as well, especially you could say, we maybe stream these games. We have a game every week that we stream on our channel. We do show matches with the local or college. If they have an esports club as well, you could easily talk with them and get events running with them as well. It's just getting your name out there as much as you can, running events when you can, and just trying to be out and social. And yeah, Discord is a great way to do that.
To add to that, I would say reach out to your local colleges, or they don't have to be local. You're
True.
The way esports works, right? Your teams don't have to get the same place. And so, speaking as a college that's trying to get our name out there, we would love to be partnering with high schools. We want to feed students into our programs. He's the same thing for him, and so you can share that relationship with whatever colleges. Reach out to them and play some matches with them. Host some events, whatever that may be.
Well, what do you think about high schools? I know you work with colleges right now, where you're trying to do it to get partnerships in industry. How about high schools?
I mean, the only other thing that I would add is just structure. Have a full thought. What do you want to get at? Do you want a full team? Do you want it to be something that's prominent in the school? I mean, obviously people are playing anyway. But I love what Joel said about partnering with other universities. I mean, if we had one of the schools in our area come to us and say, hey, we're interested in forming an Overwatch team and some of the seniors were interested in coming to the university, I think we would probably be all over that.
Yeah.
So, we would probably want to work with them to develop and help them develop. And not just, for that, but just to show people that, hey, the gaming's becoming larger and larger and larger. And going back to the middle school, I mean, people are playing anyway. It'd be nice to have something offered in schools that are more structured instead of just kind of thrown out there, you know what I mean? So I would say that. So I would, and the businesses, I couldn't agree more. Businesses love to be involved in the community. And if you're reaching out, they're gonna reciprocate. So clear that with your principal or whoever else.
Yeah, that's somewhere over there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I've been finding out that there's a handful of organizations or leagues that between like collegiate and high school level, and all around the country too. But it seems like my question is, what makes these leagues and organizations like legitimate? Because even from like, there's so many of them, and it's like, oh, we have a fee, you can join us, like the NACE has like
Nice.
Rudy, you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
The NACE of that, yeah.
Yeah, toss that off.
I saw there's like a $2,500 fee, and there's like over
Yes, there
100
is.
plus colleges a part of it. And I think, like from my research, it seems like they're just jumping on board with it just to say, hey, this is our college esports league, yeah, we're a part of it. But I mean, like, if there's more to it, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly say something about companies with what I do. Companies that, larger companies, want to be a part of that scene. And they are willing to be involved on the collegiate level. So I'll just say that these companies want to be a part of the universities and support them in their efforts. I know NACE is something you guys can talk a little bit more about.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And so, kind of like I said, this is the Wild West still. And there's a reason why I intentionally have an esports governance class, because it's crazy. We'll start with NACE. So the National Association of Collegiate Esports dubbed itself as the first varsity level esports program in the country. I'm a member of NACE. Well, Shenandoah is a member of NACE. Coker College is also a member of NACE. And we're up to, I think you said yesterday, Rudy, over 100 now?
Either over or just below. It's
Yeah,
very
right
close
around
to
that
100.
100 number, and that's grown. This is the second year of existence. Is that correct?
I think they've been around for 4 years, but this is like their second big year.
Okay,
Like they,
second big year. So it's definitely grown, and people kind of jumped into it. And yes, $2,500. That's exactly what we had to pay to be a member of NACE, and that's an unsavory number to a small private school because we don't have a lot of money hanging around to be able to do something like that. So, with NACE, it's hard to see a lot of return on investment because they don't own the rights to any of these games. Even when they partner, and I don't want to speak poorly of NACE because they've done some really good things. You know, they've done a good job getting things organized. They've written a solid constitution. I think they call it a constitution. And so they've done a really good job doing that and bringing the industry together and legitimizing things and making it more organized. They've done a great job at that. But they can only control what they can control, and they can't control the games themselves because NACE doesn't make the games. Now they partner with some gaming studios like High Res Studios. This is the first year they're partnering with High Res, and so that has helped because then they can make it a little more exclusive to get into those specific tournaments. But an example of where that went wrong was this fall when they ran a Paladins tournament and they ran a Smite tournament. And it was open to NACE members, and so it's great. We signed up, put a team in there, and then they said, oh, by the way, now we're going to open it to people that aren't members of NACE. And I was like, well, why am I a member of NACE then? Okay, and then my only thing was I got in there because other people couldn't get in, and now anybody can get in. So why am I spending my money where I could have got in anyway? So that really left a bad taste in my mouth for that. So, and they're in a tough situation. I've talked to people at Tesla and I've talked to people at Riot as well, and they kind of agree that they applaud what NACE has done and is trying to do, but it's an uphill battle for sure because Blizzard owns the rights to Overwatch. You know, if they want to get rid of Heroes of the Storm, they can get rid of Heroes of the Storm. And so there's not much NACE can do about that except say, okay, I guess we're not playing Heroes of the Storm anymore. So they're kind of following what's going on in the industry. And so this is one of those questions that also we've talked about. We talked yesterday about the NCAA, and if they get involved, how in the world is that going to work? Because again, the NCAA doesn't own the rights to these games. And so it's a sticky situation for sure. Which ones are like the good ones, the legitimate ones, we don't know yet. So we kind of try things out and see what happens and see if it's the right fit for us. Some schools might love to be a part of NACE. Some schools maybe don't like to be a part of NACE, and that's fine. What makes things varsity versus not varsity is open to interpretation a lot of times. You know, can you use the university logo? Can you use the university, the name Shenandoah University or Coker College? Can you use operate on their offices and use funds from the university? Do you have a coach? That kind of thing. So it's really up to the school and what works for them at this point. And we're all just kind of waiting to see what the NCAA does, because at some point it's going to happen, and I don't know what in the world it's going to look like when it does happen.
Yeah, and one thing that was like unfortunate that happened with NACE is that we were supposed to have varsity League of Legends and varsity Overwatch tournaments, but then Riot and Blizzard were kind of like, no, you're not allowed to do that. That's our game. We're going to decide. But that was a good idea. So we ourselves are going to have a varsity-only tournament. So it's the thing where we are able to compete in these localized tournaments, but NACE kind of lost the rights to that. And that's just something that happens when you don't own the rights to the game. But there's also even at the high school scene, there are certain leagues that you do have to pay to come in, like HSCL is one of them. And it's one of those things where I would always look at past experiences. If they have a good track record, if they've had, maybe this is their 5th season and the past 4 seasons have been great, then you could feel safe going into it. But there's going to be a lot of those trying to jump into it. And that's when you do have to be wary, because there are a lot of people out there who are just going to try to take your money and just run a half thought out tournament. They're just trying it for a cash grab. But then there's other organizations that are truly trying to make the high school or collegiate esports scene grow. So it's just, you got to be careful, but don't be too cautious, because there are good events out there.
Certainly.
Yeah, to the guy that asked the last question, that's fantastic that you did research and you know all the different types of leagues. And to their point, what they said earlier, there are huge companies that want to come in, so all these leagues are coming up trying to be like, we are the one, just like what Nace is trying to do it in a good sense as well. But you know, if you're the first one in, companies like name recognition to Nace, then they'll give all the money to Nace or whoever it is, NCAA. Going back to your point with the varsity sports, does the NCAA own college football instead of just football, right? The idea of football, the idea of basketball, the idea of baseball, or whatever the third sport is. How do they own that, prevent other people from doing that? Because what it sounds like is college esports is built upon, especially with the way publishers are going right now, on a premise that the publisher can just take it away at any point, right? The industry that collegiate esports is building upon can just disappear or legally be taken away, or you can go forward and push your tournaments, and then Riot can decide, all right, we're going to sue you guys, which is stupid, but that's something they could do. Isn't that doesn't that seem quite stable?
Yes. It's a great question, and it's a tough question because going back to the NCAA stuff, they don't own college football, they don't own football, they don't own baseball, they don't own these sports, even though their image is plastered all over college football during the regular season. If you look at any bowl games, you won't find NCAA anywhere on there because they don't actually run the bowl games, and so that kind of shows you that they don't own it. And so with esports, I mean, it's going to be. NCAA's got to change some things if esports is going to work in the NCAA. Because like we said, they don't own the rights to these games. They're going to have to sign some kind of contract. And the world of esports, I mean, it changes so quickly. 1 year in esports is like 10 years in real life because it's changing so quickly and moving so fast. It's like dog years, but it's esport years. And things like, Call of Duty, you get a new Call of Duty every single year. We're constantly learning what the difference is in all these games and what the play style is. So you're relearning all these games so quickly. Now, a game like League of Legends has been around for, 9 years now?
8 years, yeah.
8 years, yeah. So it's been around, that has that's lasting qualities to it. Overwatch, I think, has those similar lasting qualities, even though it's only 2.5 years old at this point. And so, there will be these core games that I think that the NCAA can maybe sign contracts with Blizzard or Riot to be able to run their tournaments for 5 years, but I don't know what those are going to look like, and there's a reason I don't know, and I'm not paid a lot of money, so if I was, I'd probably know.
There's that extra level in there because of licensing. I mean, to your point. But what's fun to think about is you're going to turn on your TV, you're going to flip through the channels, there's going to be a football game, a basketball game, and then a professional video game playing. And to your point, games are being released all the time, so the game might change, what they're playing, but the idea of professional gaming and competitive gaming is, I think, what's on the rise. So
that's what I worry about. So I was at Riot, I worked at Riot, I was on the esports team, I'm close friends with Sherman, you guys all know. So these kind of conversations are what I feel like we sell a lot of people on. Wouldn't it be great if esports came on right after? Blah, blah, blah. People are like, yeah, that would be great. But getting it there, especially when I was on that side, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be great. When I was on the other side, I was like, right, you can take this away at any time.
That's true, but again, in 2020, the industry, to be a $1.5 billion industry, there will be jobs. Right? There will be people making that happen, and why will it be there? It's just because of the popularity, the continuous growing, the people getting on,
Yeah, and even beyond just the publishers getting in the way, like games die, right?
Yeah.
That's, right. Especially other than the big three, right? Or the big four, whatever it is, all the AAAs. AAAs have been there for quite some time, but You know, if you are someone that dedicated your time to be on the Heroes of the Dorm team and went to the championship 2-3 years in a row, Blizzard has a lot of good reputation and good credibility, and they crushed the whole industry.
Yeah, it feels bad.
Right. So where do you want to be? What side do you want to be on if you want to guarantee yourself to make some money in esports? It's like committing to a game could be very risky, right? Like you're playing Overwatch and you might be a top 500 player right now, and there's nothing stopping Blizzard from pulling that next week, right? I mean, they're not going to do that right now, but but much be better to be working for Blizzard than to be playing Blizzard's game, right? So
yeah, it's a very risky world being a player right now, because there are some games out there that will survive, but it's like if you're a pro in the Halo scene right now, you have tournaments to go to, you have leagues to be in, but it's very hard to be a full-time Halo pro, because unless you're winning all the tournaments, unless you're getting the huge numbers on Twitch, you do need a side job as well.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, do you keep going with the game you love, or do you try to go for, well, I'm really good at first-person shooters, might as well try to make it an Overwatch, even if it's the game that I don't enjoy as much.
Right.
So it's one of those things where does passion and stability, like where do we find the middle ground between the two?
Yeah.
eSports major at Shenandoah University.
Other jobs than just playing.
Yeah.
Do you foresee a world where a publisher maybe announces that they're giving much broader rights usages to basically anybody that wants to use the game for tournaments like this? Or if that were to be the case, do you think that might be something that could help instigate or kind of put a stimulus into some of these more developmental leagues where, to your point, it's very hard for a lot of people to be investing in these because of that lack of reliability?
I think Valve kind of did that, because you saw CSGO being run by like 5 different leagues at one point. So there are some companies that do that. Valve is the only thing I can think of, but I think Valve is more of like, okay, we have our one major, anybody else can do whatever they want. They just can't do anything during our major.
Right.
So there are a few companies that do that. And I don't think there was an issue of like, oh, do I have to watch ESL? Do I have to watch, sadly I don't watch the CSGO scene too much, so I don't know the other leagues, but it's like, I don't think there's too much of a conflict of interest there. If you're a CSGO fan, you're gonna watch a CSGO tournament. Because if you're a Cloud9 fan, they're gonna try to compete as in many leagues as they possibly can. So I don't think there's any brand loyalty there, because people they're not there for the production companies. They're not there for ESL. They're there for CSGO, or they're there for Fnatic, Cloud9. They're the brands that they follow. So if ESL does it one week, maybe Intel has a Masters the next week, they probably don't care who's running it. They're just there to watch it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because it's still getting the name out there. You know, people are playing their game more and more and more. It's publicity that Valve isn't paying for, theoretically. And Blizzard does a good job of kind of outlining what tournaments are allowed to be run without their express written permission. That if it's under a certain threshold for money being like prize money, or how much in sponsorships, or how big it is, or it's got to have certain names in the titles, like the word community might have to be in it. Blizzard puts out what exactly you have to do in each of their games in order to run a tournament in that game. And so I see that happening with these big companies, because they want to keep the big stuff to themselves. It's a company, it's a business. They know where the money is. But allowing these smaller tournaments to pop up all over the place, it helps just spread and grow their product, that they don't have to do any work for. They made the game, go run a tournament in Overwatch. As long as it's under this, and this dollars, go run it all you want. Because that still gets people playing their game. And it still gets people doing it. So that's a great business model, in my opinion. As far on the big side of things, I don't know if they would ever allow major tournaments to just completely give up the rights or anything like that. I don't see that ever happening, because it's such a big business and they're selling so many of these copies. And I don't know what the number is right now for Overwatch sales. But if you look at Fortnite, I mean, it's last we checked, it was like 100 million or over 120 million, 125, whatever crazy number it is at this point. It's just a year old. And so there's so much money there, they're not going to completely give up the rights, but allowing these small tournaments here and there, I can certainly see it help spread and diffuse kind of the popularity of the game.
Yeah, and one of the things they make sure to do, especially with those restrictions, is I know for Overwatch, we had problems with this at Penn State trying to figure out how to do like leagues and stream and stuff. Like, you're not allowed to do like a big tournament during the Overwatch League season. Right. And it's a very long season. So trying to find either one weekend that's in between stages or one weekend that's in between the seasons is very tough, and you have to abide by those rules because they don't want direct competition. So as long as you're not affecting Overwatch League or you're not affecting the LCS, they're fine with you advertising their game more. But once you start competing with their production company, then they start to slow you down a bit.
Yeah.
If I could just add to that really quickly, we ran a tournament from another institution, and we had the biggest problem with what logos we were allowed to show side by side.
That's a big
which
one.
competitions could go on, in which rooms and which floors. And so that whole marketing side of it is just another thing that, again, is under the control of the developers themselves. So they're always going to be fighting against it. NACE is doing an interesting thing of them sort of looking at some developers and saying, well, let's build our own and see, roll the dice and see what happens next phase. But it's a tough one.
Right.
Yeah, regulation's a big one. I mean, even some of the companies that we've talked to, they have certain rules on how you can display their logo if you're streaming or whatever the case is. They want to help but can't directly help because of those kinds of things. So, but there's just regulation all over the place. You just kind of have to be careful with it, dance around it as much as you can.
You have to be aware.
You have to be aware, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's interesting, what you're saying all says why a degree
is needed.
Stacks upon a different specialization, whether it's business or marketing or governance, and the idea of the middle school individual, coming from that virtual reality world where a lot of our people who are running simulation virtual centers are theater people.
Yeah.
90% of theater people started as actors and stayed in that industry because there's a culture there that they felt comfortable in. And that comfortability became a home, and then they branched beyond acting as they met the different fields that needed to be built. So just interesting how
yeah, and one thing to add with like the logos thing, I remember my last year at Penn State, we almost got in trouble with Penn State because we were doing a bunch of show matches with other BTN schools. And because a lot of the other schools are in the BTN league, we were able to use their logos. Well, we thought, well, we're Penn State students, we could use the Penn State logo, there'd be no problem. Penn State didn't like that. It's like we're a Penn State club on Penn State campus, but we're not allowed to use the Penn State logo. So we had to create our own logo. So it's just very confusing half the time because, like, yeah, we said esports is the Wild West. 2 years ago, I don't think anybody would have cared of what we were doing.
Right.
No school, like no league, no school would have cared of what kind of logos we're using. But now that it's growing like this, you have to be careful.
Yeah, and speaking of streaming, I'm not speaking of streaming, but I think, going back to the kind of high school level, I think if you all can establish a Twitch channel and stream as much as you can, that's a big way to also get your name out there, and not only that, but to help your students learn what streaming is like, because streaming is huge in esports right now, and it kind of goes back to what the NCAA is trying to do. If they take over esports, people streaming on Twitch, players aren't going to be allowed to make any money on their name, image, or likeness, according to the NCAA. So you're going to have to stop streaming on Twitch if you're an esports athlete in the NCAA, which that's a major issue right now. Because a lot of esports athletes are saying, well, I'm not going to do that. I just won't be an esports athlete in the NCAA. I'll just go Twitch or be on Twitch and stream my own stuff and play in the side tournaments. I just won't be on the varsity level team. Oh darn. So if the NCAA does take over, they're going to have to change something with their streaming rules and make it how student athletes make money as well.
Yeah, and another thing I just thought of with high school leagues and stuff like that is, like, if you are able to get in a conversation with a local college that has a varsity program, they have scholarships available for esports players. That's a good way to sell to your principal, to whoever you're working with there, saying like, there are these schools that are giving sponsorships or scholarships for these players to come in and compete. And there's even some schools where they're giving it to like a broadcast team as well. There's a few casters, a few just streamers who are on scholarship at certain schools. I think RMU just got a scholared streamer as well. So I'd have to look again to see which schools are doing this, but there's a lot of opportunities out there for high school students.
And I would say not just the collegiate, not just the varsity team, but also the clubs as well. We might actually get more response from clubs at universities wanting to work with high school students.
Yeah.
What does an application to an esports degree look like?
It's an application to the university. That's all it is. And so once you're accepted to the university, you can declare whatever major you want. And something, it's so unique that I don't know what the numbers are going to look like and how many we accept right at the get-go. I'm going to accept as many as we possibly can, people that are interested in it, but I'm going to meet with every single student that plans on majoring or minoring in esports, so I can say, why are you taking this degree? Because I want to know. So the application is really to the university, then once you're there and accepted to the university, you apply, or you say you declare that major. And then once you declare that, that's where they come to me. And I'll say, all right, why are you taking this? Hopefully it's not just to play video games. That's the number one thing I'm going to knock out right at the get-go. And so then the conversation will kind of build from there. So there's no specific application to the degree that we have at Shenandoah. It's an application to the university, and then you declare once you get on campus.
So would you let that student continue the degree if the reason was to just continue playing video games, or?
I can't stop them from getting a degree in a certain thing. I can certainly highly encourage them and steer them in other directions. And as a freshman, students don't oftentimes know exactly what they're going to major in for the rest of their lives. I changed my degree a couple of times when I was in college. You hear people saying they changed their degree 3, 4, 5 times when they were in college. So just because you come in, declare right from the get-go doesn't mean that's what it's going to be forever, but at least get students started. And they can at least start taking general education classes that all students on campus have to take. That gives them another year to really think about what do I actually want to do with my life, and is this the right degree for me? So it's just a conversation you have with advisors at the university, and something that I work with every single student on individually on a one-on-one basis to say, is this the right thing for you? Think about it, talk with your family, do some soul searching. Is this really what you want to do, and why do you want to do it? And then we can work a game plan from there. Go ahead.
Is there in like the future, in this $1 billion industry future, is there a room for non-developer support games like Team Fortress 2 or Super Smash Bros. Melee?
Gosh, there's room for all kinds of games. In the future of esports, I don't know what is going to be like the big games or where everything is going to fit in there. And I think that Joel and I have talked before is if you want to play a game and be part of our esports program at Shenandoah, we'll find a spot for you. There is a place for you, whether or not you're at the highest level of competition and part of NACE and competing in national tournaments. I don't know, whether it's set of scrimmages and other kind of smaller esport style games. Is speed running a type of esport? To some people it is. And so everybody that has a passion for video games and competing in some capacity in video games, there's a spot for them at the club level or the varsity level or even the recreational level in esports. And a lot of schools are going to those tiered systems now, where they have the varsity level team, they have their club level teams, and then they have their recreational level team. So there's a spot for everybody. If there's a passion and you've got it and there's a community for it, there is a position at the university for you.
If there are people playing a game, there are going to be jobs in that too, right? It may be something that might need to be created, but to organize the events around those kind of games or those communities, whatever that may be, photography, streaming, the same stuff we've mentioned before.
I like to equate this. You ever watch the credits at the end of a movie? And they just roll on forever, and they're like, there's this many people that actually created this one thing. All those people were employed to do that. You feel free to do this. I just Googled jobs in esports, just in esports. I'm just going to read some of this. Associate marketing manager, manager group sales, athletic manager, esports project manager, partnership manager, director of esports. These are all Wizards. This is Wizard, Hasbro, Twitch, Red Bull. You name the companies. These are all Razer, Capcom. The list goes on and on and on. So there are plenty of jobs out there to be had in whatever field that you want to branch off into, or maybe, I don't know, how mom and dad always say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I don't know what I want to do. You might get to the university and decide, well, maybe I want to follow a path in development or VR development or marketing or whatever it is. But you can start by coming to the university and taking that path kind of thing.
Right, but kind of going back to your question on can these other games really enter into the collegiate sphere of competitive esports. Something that's great about video games is that these games can, the people who like these games are very, very passionate about them. And if you're passionate about something, whether you're good at it or not, you enjoy watching people who are good at it do the thing and be good at it. So whether or not there is a huge following for Super Smash Bros., which there is, or any of these other games that may enter into an esports program, the people who want to watch it will seek it out and watch it. So there's certainly a place for, maybe not at every collegiate esports club, but there will be collegiate esports clubs with it.
Yeah. And I want to kind of interject and do one kind of topic. We got 10 minutes left, so I want to ask one more thing kind of to people up here, and we can allow the conversation to continue from there. I want to know what the future looks like in AR and VR as well with esports. Augmented reality and virtual reality, and how those fit into the esports scene. We see some competitive games in VR, things like Echo Arena, Onward, a couple of VR games. And we've dabbled with them at the university because we have such a strong VR program already. But where does that fit in to the larger collegiate scene? I don't know if Coker has looked at any kind of VR or augmented reality, eSports, or if you yourself really have thought about
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Thank you.
We haven't got anything just yet on VR or AR, just because I don't think that there's going to be like small tournaments here and there. You'll see like the smaller scenes here and there, but I just don't think the technology is there just yet to like have the next League of Legends, the next Overwatch, at least for VR. It's definitely growing pretty fast. I already saw like haptic gloves coming where you could actually feel feedback on it. Once that technology starts becoming a lot more commercially available, that's when you'll start seeing the bigger games, the bigger tournaments starting to come out, the bigger leagues. So until then, I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows with technology. That could be 5 years away, that could be 20 years away. It's really just until someone figures out how to make it commercially available.
There's a Beat Saber tournament that's going on like right now.
Yeah, Beat Saber, there you go. If you haven't played it, try it out. It's really fun and difficult.
So because they put up a curtain between the two players so they can see each other's screens, right?
Oh, really?
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, we can open it up to a couple more questions if there are more questions from the audience.
So how would you go about selling it to parents? Because we run an organization that teaches kids how to get into game development, and also we do eSports events and all that. The big problem that we always kind of run into is like selling it to the parents, because some of the community that we work with is like is kind of behind in terms of like seeing where the world is going, like how would you kind of go about selling it to parents?
It's not an easy sell today, and not only to parents but also I've run into problems with other faculty members at the university and upper administration. It's a generational thing. The comfort level that my generation has with maybe the generation above me is not the same with video games. I'm passing, my little girls are playing video games right now, and they're 4 and 6. And so obviously it gets more comfortable as we go on and the generations get older, but to sell it to parents and people don't understand it as much, especially when you're talking about a degree in esports, you have to talk about that it's not just to work in the esports industry. You have to be able to sell them I'm teaching them concepts they can use in other areas of life as well. Teamwork, cooperation, the idea of marketing through different things. Event management can run from anything from traditional sports to concerts to ballet. I mean, anything. If you have event management experience, you can work in other types of events, not just esports. And so you have to sell them on the broader level concepts that they'd also be learning instead of just the specific esports things and concepts that we learn. And so that's how you sell to parents, is that this is, and now that we talk about the industry, talk about how many jobs are out there. Parents, when they send their kids to school, to college, they want them to have a job when they graduate. And that's what we want them to have.
I find a lot of people, depends on who your audience is, but a lot of people gravitate when you start talking dollars. Just phrase it in terms of dollars.
Yeah, one thing that helps me out a lot is just hammering it down that it's not just playing video games. That's what the parents think. They think they're just going to sit away and play video games. Luckily enough, I had the foresight to take pictures of all the stuff that I've worked on in the past. So I'm able to show them, like, this is stuff that I've done in the past in the esports scene. And to them, it just looks like any other shorter production shoot. You see the photographers, you see the behind the scenes people that need work, and once they realize that, where it's just, hey, they're not just playing video games, they're actually working. Like, this could be any different from, let's say, a sports tournament or an esports tournament. The only thing you don't see is just the field they're playing on. So once they realize that's not just playing games, they're a little more, or a little less hesitant at least. Right. It's very hard to 100% sell them, but as long as you can get their foot in the door, then it's usually good to go from there.
And I don't want to be that guy, but I am kind of a generation below y'all. So for me, if I had a child,
question, who's next?
For me, the idea of I want to pursue esports, I understand that can be more than just playing esports. So if we work on normalizing that, through time, that understanding will, disseminate amongst the rest of the population. So yeah, right now it could be really, really hard to sell parents on esports, and that sucks for us right now. But in a couple of generations, it's not going to be as hard because of the work we're doing now, which will make it easier for other kids in the future to really pursue their passions in a way that we aren't able to.
You can, like, real quick stuff, point to the Overwatch League, right? They're on ESPN, or Rocket League's finals were just on TBS. There's stuff on Disney XD, right? Like, just say ESPN. Like, this is already on ESPN, right? ESPN has lots of people that work for them. They're like, so some of these things just add legitimacy to it. Things that they've heard of. Compare it to a sports management thing. You know, you could, just because you work for the Washington Nationals does not mean that you play baseball for the Washington Nationals, right?
Right.
Good question. Yes, sir.
So kind of touching on the NCAA and the Twitch stuff, do you ever actually see a way for the NCAA to govern it? Because we both know they'll never give up the amateur status for college athletes. So with the money making, do you ever actually see the NCAA coming into this?
It's going to be tough because without the amateurism, you're not going to get the Twitch players. Right. And if you just say, okay, for esports players, it's fine, they could have Twitch and all that, then you're going to see huge backlash from all the other sports. Right. So there's really no easy way for the NCAA to get involved, just because no matter what they do, it's going to be somewhat of a negative to them.
Right.
So I think that's why it's taken them so long just to make a statement about if they wanted to pursue esports or not, just because I honestly don't even know how the NCAA should handle this. Right. It's extremely tough for them.
Yeah, and it's why they're taking time trying to figure it out. You know, they started looking at this, I think, October of like 2017, and they've taken almost a year and a half now. And I know that they have a big convention, I think, next week to maybe make an announcement about this. Will it ever work? I don't know. They're going to have to light up the rules on name, image, and likeness. It all comes down to that. I mean, when you've got football players that are on YouTube and they're not allowed to get on YouTube because they play football, or signing autographs, you know, because they can't take money to sign autographs. You know, esport players, they live in a different kind of system right now. And so, will the NCAA ever change? I hope so. If they ever want to be involved in esports.
So does that like kind of open up an avenue for other athletes to be paid or paid for their likeness?
I hope so. I think they can. I think they should. I think student athletes should be paid for their name, image, and likeness. Not from the NCAA, but if they want to go out and be entrepreneurial, open up a lemonade stand because they're a popular football player. If you want to get Johnny Manziel, whoever, to open up a lemonade stand, he wants to make money. Go for it. Johnny's lemonade.
He could use it.
How great would it be? How great would it be if esports is the reason that amateurism comes back in college sports?
They would be accepted into the NCAA with open arms. They would just.
Yeah, so they would have to loosen up on name and likeness. We got time for one more question.
Yeah, so my question is more speculative, kind of going off of what he said. Is it worth continuing the pursuit of legitimacy through the NCAA when it kind of feels like, sounds like, looks like the club level is pretty solid, can be pretty solid, and I think the relationship and the dynamic between the club programs and the pro teams, I think, from what I know, I think you're seeing a lot of those club players just going on with pro teams and just not really caring legitimacy from the NCAA at all.
Right.
I know it's based on speculation.
I think the NCAA is going to, whether it's the colleges or esports choice itself is different. NCAA is going to want to get a piece of this at some point.
There's a lot of money there, and the NCAA wants some of that money.
A lot of money there. Yeah. So I think the NCAA is going to want to be involved in this in some capacity sooner than later. Yes.
We're making the assumption this is a dichotomy, that the two can't exist together. But you look at a sport like gymnastics. The greatest gymnasts in the world, the girls that we see, particularly the females that we see in the Olympic Games, never competed at the collegiate level.
Right.
However, college gymnastics is strong. They have teams and they have championships and they give trophies, and there's a valuable experience for those athletes. So why is it that we are making the assumption that this is an all or nothing situation?
I don't think it is. Okay, go ahead. You go.
Just, I would say my biggest concern is that gymnastics has, existed as an institution for years and years and years. But in the world of esports, games can come and go, like we've been saying for like within 2 years. And I think Joel said it really well last night at their panel. The NCAA is a leviathan that takes years to make any sort of decision. And then the amount of time it takes to make a decision about accepting a game into the NCAA, the game could have left the public's consciousness.
Let me object. Starting Wednesday of this week, in Orlando, the NCAA has their convention Wednesday through Saturday. And every participant will be given a 80 to 120 page document that outlines changes that they're making this year. So what is it to say that they can't change games from year to year? If a new game becomes popular, the NCAA could adopt that game.
Yeah.
If a new game,
they could.
They can, and work with the publishers. They're going to have to work very closely with these publishers to make sure that they can continue to use them.
We'll see how it plays out.
How long did it take to put that document together?
Okay, so we are out of time, so I want to thank you very much for being here and engaging in a conversation here, and we'll stick around for a while to also engage in more conversations if you'd like to stick around and talk to us for a little while. And then we've also got a quick plug for some more panels. I know, Rudy, you got one on Sunday at 11:30?
Yep, Sunday at 11:30. It's a collegiate esports panel, like how to get involved. It's going to be very heavy on the student orgs and clubs aspect of it. So it'll be a little less on the varsity style or the education style. So there's going to be quite a bit of people from a bunch of different colleges who've worked with or continue or still at certain clubs.
Yeah, and then also Sunday at 11, I'll be on another esports panel looking at esports and event management, more from the professional side, at 11 o'clock on Sunday. And also we do have, Shenandoah does a booth down in the marketplace. Come check us out if you want to learn more about the major. We do have flyers about the classes that are involved from the esports major and the new VR major, so come check us out in the marketplace. We're happy to talk to you there as well. Otherwise, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of MAGFest.
Yeah, we got the flyers for this.